What if I told you that the greatest cathedral of modern sport, a dynasty built of gold and glory, was constructed around an empty space? What if the champion who taught the world how to fly was secretly chained to the ground by a single, invisible anchor? He once said, in a quote that has been printed on 1,000,000 posters and echoed in 1,000 locker rooms, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times, I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." We hear those words and we nod. We feel a flicker of inspiration, a tiny dose of cheap motivational fuel. We use it as a caption, a mantra for a tough day. But we don't truly understand it. We've never felt the suffocating weight of those 9,000 misses. We celebrate the final shot that won the championship, but we ignore the ghosts of the 26 that broke a city's heart. Tonight, we are going to ignore the 6 rings. We're going to ignore the statue and the highlight reels. We are going to zoom in, past the noise and the legend, and focus on just one failure. The first one, the deepest one. The one that planted a seed of obsession that would bloom into terrifying greatness. So, as we settle in, I want you to hold this question in your mind. A question that defies all conventional wisdom about success. How do you build a palace on the foundations of a ghost? Stay with me, because the answer isn't about architecture. It's about alchemy, and it might just change the way you look at the empty spaces in your own life. The man, of course, needs no introduction, yet we must reintroduce him. Michael Jordan. The name itself is a mythology. We see the icon, the gravity-defying slam dunks, the 6 NBA titles with the Chicago Bulls, the shoes that birthed a global culture, the shrewd billionaire businessman. He is the blueprint of competitive fire, the very definition of a winner, a man who seemed to have descended from Olympus with a basketball in his hand. We know the what. His accomplishments are etched into the stone tablets of sports history. But the real story, the one that offers a genuine, actionable blueprint for the rest of us mortals, isn't in the what. It's buried deep in the why and the how. The traditional answers feel lazy, almost insulting in their simplicity. He was immensely talented. He was a gifted athlete. He just wanted to win more than anyone else. Those are the headlines, the surface story we tell ourselves because it's comfortable. It allows us to place him in a category of other, a genetic lottery winner, absolving us from having to truly reckon with the terrifying force of his will. The truth is far more complex, far more painful, and infinitely more useful. It's a story about a skinny, awkward kid from Wilmington, North Carolina, who wasn't born a legend. He was forged. And the furnace he was thrown into wasn't a mythical volcano. It was excruciatingly, humiliatingly ordinary. This brings us to our big question for tonight. The question that unlocks the entire puzzle. What if the unshakable, indomitable will of Michael Jordan wasn't fueled by a glorious desire to collect trophies, but by a desperate, lifelong, and agonizing need to silence a single, persistent voice? Not the voice of a critic, or a rival, or a coach, but the voice of his own humiliated reflection in a bedroom mirror on the single worst day of his young life. To find the answer, we have to travel back in time. Forget the roaring crowds of Chicago Stadium. Forget the flashing cameras and the champagne-soaked celebrations. I want you to come with me to a place with no glamour. A place that smells of sweat, floor wax, and teenage anxiety. We're going to Laney High School in Wilmington, North Carolina, circa 1978. There is no spotlight here. Just the cold, sterile hum of fluorescent lights in a gymnasium hallway. A gaggle of teenage boys, all nervous energy and feigned confidence, are crowded around a single sheet of paper pinned to a cork bulletin board. This is it. The varsity basketball team roster. In the world of a 5-year-old, this list is not just a list. It's a judgment. It's a prophecy. It is, for a moment, the entire world. Imagine being that 5-year-old. Basketball isn't just a game to you. It's your primary language. The way you connect with your father, your brother, your own body. It's the air you breathe. You've worked all summer, running drills until your legs burned, shooting jumpers until the sun went down. You're taller now, a bit stronger. You have played this moment out in your mind 1,000 times. You, seeing your name printed in that clean, definitive type. A skinny Michael Jordan, all 5'10" of him, not yet the icon, just a hopeful kid named Mike, pushes his way through the crowd. His heart is a drum against his ribs. He finds the list. His eyes scan it, searching for the J. Once, twice, a frantic, desperate third time. His stomach plummets. His friend, the 6'7" Leroy Smith, finds his own name. He's ecstatic, celebrating. But Michael's name, it's not there. Let's stop here. Let's not rush past this moment. This is not a quaint biographical footnote. This is the inciting incident of an epic. This is ground zero. This is the Big Bang of the Michael Jordan universe. In that silent, heart-stopping moment, he was told, unequivocally, "You are not good enough." The walk home is a silent film of shame. The familiar streets of his neighborhood become a blurry, hostile landscape. The world narrows to the sound of his own ragged breathing and the hot, hard lump forming in his throat. He gets to his house, walks past his mother who asks how it went, and he can't form the words. He mumbles something and flees. He goes to his room, closes the door, and the lock clicking into place is the sound of his world collapsing. And then, this boy who would become a global symbol of unbreakable strength breaks. He weeps. This isn't the quiet, dignified shedding of a few tears. This is the ugly cry. The raw, gut-wrenching, body-shaking sobs of a shattered heart. The sting of saltwater tears, mixed with the metallic taste of pure humiliation. The decision itself, made by his coach, Clifton Pop Herring, wasn't malicious. It was practical. The team needed height. Jordan was still developing. So the taller Leroy Smith got the spot. A simple, logical coaching decision. But for Jordan, the consequence was apocalyptic. It was a verdict on his very being. And in that moment of profound, absolute isolation, an enemy was born. An enemy more powerful and more motivating than any rival he would ever face on the court. This enemy wasn't Coach Herring. It wasn't Leroy Smith. The enemy was a far more insidious and personal phantom. For the sake of our story, let's give it a name: the ghost of roster 23. This ghost wasn't a person. It was the feeling. It was the echo of that empty space on the list where his name should have been. It was the phantom limb of a dream that had just been amputated. From that day on, the ghost was his constant companion. It sat on the bench with him during his junior varsity games. And when he scored 40 points against kids, he was clearly better than the ghost would whisper in his ear. This doesn't count. This is the kiddie table. The real game, the one that matters, is happening without you. The ghost was the true source of his fire. From that day forward, he wasn't just playing to win. He was playing to exorcise a demon. He was playing for an audience of one. The ghost of the boy who wasn't chosen. Every single achievement was another attempt to silence that whisper. So, what is the lesson here? The typical motivational guru would package this neatly. When you fail, just work harder. Turn your setbacks into comebacks. And while that's true, it's a surface-level platitude. It's cheap and it's incomplete. It misses the radical, dangerous alchemy that was happening inside that teenager's soul. The real, unconventional lesson Jordan learned in that locked room wasn't just about the discipline to work harder. It was a profound and life-altering discovery. Your deepest wound is not something to be healed. It is something to be harnessed. Conventional logic, and most of modern therapy, tells us to heal the wound, to process the trauma, to find closure, to forgive, to forget, to move on. Jordan did the absolute opposite. He refused to let the wound close. He treated it like a sacred stigmata. He poured the salt of memory into it every single day. He used the searing pain as his primary source of fuel. He turned that rejection, that piece of paper on a bulletin board, into the founding document of his own sovereign nation. A nation of one, with a single, guiding philosophy. I will make it so that no one, ever again, has the power to make me feel this powerless. He fundamentally broke the expected pattern of failure, grief, acceptance. His new, self-created pattern became failure, rage, relentless action. He didn't seek closure. He sought domination. Not over the coach, but over the very concept of being judged and found wanting. This is a critical mindset shift. It's the difference between being a victim of your past and weaponizing your past. He wasn't just ready to fly. He was building his wings out of the very wreckage that was supposed to keep him grounded. Now, let's rewind again. Not to his childhood, but to the immediate aftermath. The very next morning. After the storm of tears, after the night of rage, what happens? Most teenagers would be bitter. They'd nurse the grudge. They'd blame the coach, call the decision unfair. They'd slack off in JV practice, their failure becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, a comfortable excuse. Well, the coach screwed me, so why bother? Jordan's response was otherworldly in its intensity and reveals a daily discipline that is almost frightening. The sun rises on a different person. The boy who cried himself to sleep is gone. In his place is a warrior. He shows up to JV practice earlier than anyone else. He leaves later than everyone else. He treats every drill, every scrimmage, every single JV game like it was Game 7 of the NBA Finals. He was a man possessed, playing against an opponent only he could see, the ghost on his bench. He wasn't just trying to win the game. He was trying to humiliate the very idea that he didn't belong on the varsity court. But here is the crucial detail where his unique philosophy truly took root. He didn't just practice his strengths to feel good about himself. He launched a methodical, obsessive, all-out war on his weaknesses. This is where his self-development journey became legendary. He had the clarity to understand why he was cut. He was seen as a one-dimensional player, a good driver, but with a weak jump shot and average defense. This was the true genesis of his famous Breakfast Club, the pre-dawn workouts that would become lore in Chicago. It didn't start under the bright lights of the NBA. It started here, in the cold, lonely morning light of a North Carolina high school gym. His study motivation wasn't for school books. He was studying the anatomy of his own failure. He and his brother Larry would play ferocious one-on-one games before school. These weren't friendly sibling rivalries. They were brutal, psychological battles. Every stolen ball, every blocked shot was a referendum on his will. Now, let's apply our flaw scrutiny method. It's tempting to deify Jordan, to airbrush him into a flawless winning machine. But that robs the story of its immense power and its relatability. The very same inferno that fueled his greatness also forged his most significant flaws. That pathological, insatiable need to compete, to dominate every single interaction, didn't have an off switch. It bled into every corner of his life. His infamous high-stakes gambling habits were a direct extension of this. He wasn't playing cards for money. He was playing for the win, for that temporary silencing of the ghost. His sometimes abrasive relationships with teammates, his legendary trash-talking, it all came from the same source. He wasn't just competing against Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. He was competing against boredom, against stillness, against the ever-present whisper of the ghost of roster 23. That ghost demanded to be fed, and it fed on victory, any victory. A championship ring, a hand of poker, a bet on the golf course. It was all the same fuel. Acknowledging this doesn't diminish his greatness. It makes it terrifyingly real. That obsessive mindset, the very engine of his success, was also a source of chaos. It shows us that our greatest strength is often tethered to our greatest weakness. So how do we, in our own lives, apply this powerful, dangerous fuel? We're not all trying to become the greatest basketball player of all time. But we all have a roster our name wasn't on. A job promotion we were passed over for. A relationship that ended abruptly. A business that crumbled. We all have our ghosts. We can distill Jordan's method into a practical 3-step formula. Let's call it the Roster 23 Protocol. First, Name your ghost. Don't just vaguely acknowledge your failure. Don't say, "I didn't get the job." Be specific. Give the ghost a name. The J.P. Morgan rejection letter. The collapse of Project Phoenix. The day she walked away. Look it right in its spectral eyes. Don't run from the pain. Invite it in for coffee. That rejection, that searing humiliation, is now your most honest and brutal personal trainer. In a strange way, you must become grateful for it. It's the purest signal you will ever receive about where you need to improve. It's the ultimate tool for personal development. Second, find your breakfast club. This is about forging your daily discipline in the dark, when no one is watching. What is the one non-negotiable activity you will commit to that directly attacks the weakness your ghost exposed? It's not for your boss, not for your partner, not for your social media feed. It is a sacred contract with yourself. It's the 5 a.m. writing session. It's the extra hour spent mastering a new coding language. It's the 30 minutes every night dedicated to financial planning. This is where you wage war. This is where you learn to stay hard when everything around you encourages you to be soft. This is how you cultivate an abundance mindset. By proving to yourself, day after day, that your capacity for effort is limitless. Third, answer with your work. Jordan never wrote a letter to Coach Herring saying, "You made a huge mistake." He never complained to the local newspaper. He didn't need to. His 6 championships, his 5 MVP awards, his global icon status, that was his response. It was the loudest, most definitive answer imaginable. Your goal is not to argue with the gatekeepers who rejected you. Your goal is to build your own castle so magnificent that their gate becomes an irrelevant historical landmark. Let your success, your excellence, your body of work be the only reply they ever receive. No excuses, just execution. Your work is your argument. And now, we come full circle, back to where we started, to that locked bedroom door in Wilmington, North Carolina, in 1978. We began this journey with a question. How do you build a palace on the foundations of a ghost? And now, we finally have the answer. You don't exorcise the ghost. You don't vanquish it. You put it on the payroll. You give it a corner office in your mind. You turn its whispers of doubt into a roaring command for action. That locked door wasn't a prison cell. It was a crucible. It was a cocoon. The heartbroken boy who walked in was not the same person who walked out the next morning. The famous quote, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." It's not a motivational poster. It's not a humble brag. It's a confession. It is the thesis statement for his entire existence. It's the core of his philosophy. He didn't succeed in spite of his failures. He succeeded directly because of them. Each failure was another brick in the palace. Each missed game-winning shot was another intense, one-on-one conversation with the ghost of roster 23, a ghost that he, through sheer will and unimaginable work, eventually learned to control, to harness, to turn into his most valuable, most trusted, and most terrifying ally. The ultimate lesson from Michael Jordan's real story isn't about dunking a basketball. It's about a profound spiritual journey. It's about understanding that our moments of greatest perceived weakness, of deepest shame, of most profound failure, are not endings. They are violent, painful, and absolutely necessary origins. The path to an abundance mindset and true self-development isn't about avoiding the valleys of life. It's about realizing that the soil in those valleys is the most fertile ground for growth. It's about finding a sense of peace, not in the achievement of a perfect life, but in the relentless, beautiful, and deeply motivational struggle. You are not defined by the moment you get knocked down. You are defined by who you choose to be the morning after. So I ask you, as we close, what's the name of your ghost? What roster was your name missing from? Take a moment. Acknowledge it. And then, tomorrow morning, decide what your breakfast club is going to be. Share your story, or just the name of your ghost, in the comments below. Let's build a community around the idea that our failures are not our shame, but our strength. Because every great success story begins with a chapter just like this one. Thank you for listening to the 500 Millionaire Blueprint. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And now, go out there and have a conversation with your ghost. It's been waiting to help you.